Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Cedarville Stories Podcast. I'm Mark Weinstein, and you are in store for a special treat today, as I have joining me two of the founders of Empowering Enabled Ministry. My guests are Emily Shanahan and her mom, Barb. We are going to discuss how the Lord's blessing of having a disabled child from birth transformed the lives of Tom and Barb Shanahan and countless others in what has become a kingdom-sized impact in the lives of so many people. Emily earned a bachelor's degree in communication arts in 2011 from Cedarville, and 6 years later added a master's degree in Christian theology. I'm really excited to share this story, so let's go to my conversation with Emily and Barb Shanahan on today's Cedarville Stories Podcast. It's good to have both of you in the studio today. Thanks for making a trek in the campus. And Emily, I want to start the podcast talking to you.
All right,
if that's okay with you.
Bring it on.
So when I think of your story, I think of Ephesians 3:20. And that was just my prayer a moment ago, that now to him who's able to do immeasurably more than we ask or imagine, according to the power that is at work within us. So with that verse, how have you seen the Lord do immeasurably more through your life than you ever thought was even possible?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. I think that started like when I was 7 years old, and I met Molly Heaton Harriman, who was the person the Lord used to introduce me to Cedarville University. And then starting at 8 and 9, when the Lord told me in the middle of a Heart Song concert, Emily, this is where I want you to go to school. Emily, this is where I want you to go to college. And so being 9 years old, you don't really bother the Lord with logistics questions. I just thought, okay, you want me to go to Cedarville, Jesus? I'm going to Cedarville, even though I was 9.
And you did?
Yes.
And you graduated. Well, and we'll talk about some of your Cedarville experiences later on the podcast.
Okay, that sounds fun.
So when for our audio listeners, they may not know that we're in the studio and you're in a wheelchair. You're confined to a wheelchair. Do you have any other limitations that maybe an able-bodied person doesn't have?
Well, I'm differently enabled with cerebral palsy.
Yeah. So
for me, that's orthopedic only. If you think of a normal developing child, I have the self-help skills of a 6-month-old, but I'm type A++ with limited fine motor and gross motor skill. So that just makes for some interesting adventures. But I have a 13-member group of life givers that I call the Dream Team, because they come together as a team to make my God-given dreams come true. So the Dream Team helps me with everything from getting ready for the day, starting at 7 to 9, to getting, I have an active blog and vlog, and I'm writing my first children's book, hoping to get a contract here, Lord willing, from a literary agent soon. So I have a team of 2 executive assistants that work with me from 10 to 3 on Tuesday, Thursdays, and 11 to 4 on Wednesdays to get all the office tasks done. And then I have evening routine from 5 to 9.
Well, don't blow all the story right here.
All right. Okay.
Because we're going to talk about all that too.
Okay.
So it sounds like you have an entourage.
Yes.
So you have people almost around the clock caring for your needs.
Yes, exactly.
So let's move the story a little bit to your mom. So Barb, as you know, Emily was born at just 26 weeks.
Yes.
And she was later diagnosed, as she said, with cerebral palsy.
Mm-hmm.
When that news came to you, you were devastated.
Absolutely.
Fearful.
Mm-hmm.
Even angry.
And hopeless.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I read in a Dayton Daily News story that you were angry, where did you direct that anger, and how was that manifested back years ago?
I was angry at those around me. Oh my goodness, let's see here. I got angry at a doctor. I'll start there. Maybe
a couple doctors.
Yeah, well, no, just one in particular.
Okay.
I took Emily to Cincinnati Children's, to Nationwide Children's, to finally maybe find a doctor that would tell me that Emily didn't have cerebral palsy, because I didn't want to hear that. Okay. And so I thought, let me back that up here. So sorry. And when Emily was 15 months old, we went for an ear checkup from an ear infection.
Okay.
And her pediatrician at the time was out of town. So a Dr. James Bryant came in to do Emily's ear check follow-up, and he shut the door behind him. My husband was with me that day. And he, said that Emily's ears are all cleared up, and he picked Emily up and held her. And he said, but, there's something that the both of you need to know, that Emily has cerebral palsy, and that, there'll be probably a 95% chance that Emily will never walk. And I didn't even know what cerebral palsy was. He said, she has problems with her fine and gross motor skills. I had to go to the library to look that up. I didn't even know what it was and those words meant. But he was so tender and so kind. And, I turned into a puddle. I mean, I just didn't want to get out of bed for the next couple of days, but I knew I needed to get up to take care of Emily. I was just sort of flattened. So as you were in a very good, loving church at the time, and they're like, let's get some, get her to some doctors to get some more evaluations. And, so they helped guide me through that process. And, but then as I was getting up and going, I thought, well, I'll go to these other doctors, at Cincinnati and Columbus, and they confirmed that Emily had cerebral palsy. Well, that made me even more angry. And I grew up in Indiana, so I thought, well, I'll take her back home to Indiana to Riley's Children's Hospital.
Great hospital.
Yes, excellent. And both of the other places we went to were very good as well. But that doctor came in after, doing a series of interviews and physical exams and x-rays. He came in, picked Emily up, from me and put him on his lap. And he's in his white jacket with his, black circle chair, rolling around. And he rolled up to Tom and I and holding Emily and said, that, confirmed the 95% chance of never walking, but be very thankful that I can have a relationship with Emily. And I thought, a relationship? I mean, I'm taking her to evaluations and she can't sit up by herself. We're looking at all the physical things that Emily can't do.
Right.
And that's where I want the fix. Right. And I'm like, well, of course I can have a relationship with her. She can talk. I didn't realize what a gift that I could have a relationship with Emily. But I got very angry at him. Probably over the next year, I treated her preschool teachers unkindly, physical therapists unkindly, because I was just angry. Wherever I could spew my anger by being unkind with my words and actions. But then I entered into some counseling because I couldn't stop crying. And I didn't know that there was stages of grief, and I was stuck in the anger stage. But she helped me realize that, I can have a relationship with Emily. And then that, as God began to work in my heart, I realized that I have a relationship with him that I need to nurture. And that's where my healing began, is through my relationship with Christ.
So as an observer of Emily, when she was an undergrad student at Cedarville, I can attest that not being able to walk did not slow her down.
Exactly, yeah.
She can move on this campus, and she can impact this campus, and she did impact this campus in great ways. So back to the softening of your heart and the relationship with Jesus, and that led to a rightful mindset. Well, another example I learned was a teacher in the West Carrollton School District, that's in the Dayton area for our listeners, literally changed the course of Emily's education. That includes now an undergraduate degree from Cedarville, a graduate degree as well. Who was this teacher, and how did she change the trajectory of Emily's education, I'll say even life?
Well, she was, the laws had changed. So when Emily's 1 and 2, she was in a county school programming. But when she turned age 3 for preschool, we were transferred from county programming school to our local school district in West Carrollton. And so there's a document called an individual education plan. So Emily came into West Carrollton with her individual education plan, and she was categorized as being multi-handicapped. I didn't really pay attention to those things at all, but Brenda, comes in and sits down, and we start to write Emily's IEP for her 3rd year of life, preschool. And she said, Barb, I think we need to rewrite Emily's IEP from being multi-handicapped to orthopedic only. And I'm like, I could care less. I said, if you want to do that, go right ahead. And I shoved the paper back across to Emily. from, across the desk back over to Brenda. And Brenda goes, Barb, I know that you can't see very far down the future right now.
Right.
But I see Emily as a graduating high school senior headed to college. So we need to rewrite this to change the pathway of her education. I want her in a mainstream classroom. And so she said, I'll go ahead and rewrite it if you would sign it. I'm going, fine, go ahead. Just rewrite it, do whatever, I'll come in and sign it, And so now I had 2 more years of being like not very kind. So like to the point when I would come into the school, I would need to be met by an escort because I would take people out verbally, I would find things to just go after people with. And so I got my assigned escort. But anyhow, long story short, there's a story that I don't want to steal from Emily, but remember I said I could care less about that. Well, by the time Emily was starting kindergarten, she was ready to be in a mainstream classroom. Yeah. Brenda prepared us for that. And so we fast forward to 7th grade, and we would walk, Emily could walk to the middle school. But to get to the middle, she rolled. Okay. She would roll her way to middle school. But we had to pass through the parking lot of the preschool building. And because it was only those two, the preschool building and the middle school were only 2 blocks from our home. So we are running late to have Emily get inducted into the Junior National Honor Society. Wow. And we're having a little bit of a tense walk because we're running late, and this is a big deal for Emily. And who comes out of the preschool building but Brenda Milano, her preschool teacher. And I'm starting to get choked up. And she goes, oh, Shanahan's, we've kept in contact with her and still do to this year, but exchanged Christmas cards and whatnot. But Brenda goes, oh, Shanahan's, what are you guys up to tonight? She goes, I was working late tonight. I'm just, I'm just now heading out. And we're like, well, I could hardly say, but like, because I'm crying and, that Emily's being inducted into the Junior National Honor Society. And so of course I had my camera with me. So we took a picture, and as we're documenting the whole thing, she goes, I know you're going to make a scrapbook page out of this event. I said, you bet your bottom I am. Oh, yeah. But Brenda's compassion and vision casting and foresight put Emily onto that pathway of graduating from high school and going to college. So
without that, what would have happened?
Oh, I think
what could have happened.
Well, I think Emily would have been, and that's not that it's not for every family. I don't think Emily would have been set on the path of mainstream education and inclusion that early on.
Yeah. Because then in 5th grade I was tested for gifted, and then placed in gifted classes. Yeah. And then I remember my very first day of 6th grade, it was the honors block of classes that was like 2 hours worth. And it's the literal first day of 6th grade, and it's 7 a.m. And the teacher introduced herself. Hi, my name is Mrs. Pace. By the end of the 6th grade year, you will have written a college freshman level research paper. And I remember thinking, that's great, ma'am, but can I figure out where the school cafeteria is first? I didn't say that, but I thought in my head. But she ended up being a Christian teacher as well, and I would say changed the trajectory of my life too.
So Emily, I know maybe it's not this way today, but I would think it is, that kids can be cruel to other kids. Were you treated like a normal person when you were in elementary and middle school and high school, or were you kind of singled out because you were maybe a little bit different?
I definitely was / am different, being differently enabled, but the Lord really protected me. I really wasn't bullied or made to feel different or other than, and I say this as lovingly as possible, but my friends in school were also the nerds. So I was a nerd as well. Seriously, my class had 7 valedictorians, and 2 of my best friends were 2 of those valedictorians. So we would have study parties and actually study during them, and we would write lesson plans and then take turns teaching. And, So we were all very type A ++ students and plugged into the school. Yeah. But I really wouldn't say that I was set apart or bullied.
Good.
And that group of friends ended up, I gave them a name, called them the cognitive crowd, because they were just a beautiful group of students. Like I said, they were still in contact. I mean, one of them's they're my adoptive daughter and son. I mean, to this day. And
and those are the two that were valedictorian in our class.
Yeah, but they were a known name called the Cognitive Crowd. So, and I was called the Cognitive Crowd Mother. So
the Crowd Mother. So, wow, Emily's going to school from kindergarten on up. How long did it take you to feel comfortable to let her go to school? Or did you always feel comfortable?
No, I did not. At age 2, they wanted to send a school bus by to pick her up to take her to preschool, to the county preschool. And I'm like, I'm staying home to care for Emily and invest in her and nurture her future. And I was like, I'm going to take Emily to school. I don't know who these people are that are driving by to want to pick her up. And I said, no, I'll take her, So I would take her to school. And then I would basically just sort of sit in the parking lot because it was only a 2-hour class. It was a 25-minute drive between my home and the school. So I was either driving back and forth or sitting in the parking lot. And that went on for like a couple of months. And the bus driver and aide came by. I hate the word aide, but the life giver. They were two beautiful women. And they knocked on my door and said, Mrs. Shanahan, please, we really want to pick Emily up and give you a little bit of respite. We make it fun on the bus. I know it's hard to release Emily at age 2, but please trust us. Let us just give it a week's try, And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Let me think about it. And so I drove Emily to school one more time, and I walked in holding Emily because this is pre-wheelchair days. I was still carrying her around, and I walked in, put her in her seat at the table. And this little kid who had Down syndrome crawled up my side. I'm just standing there talking to the school teacher, and he just used me as a jungle gym. Crawled up my side, wrapped his arms around me, gave me a big sloppy quick kiss, and said, "Hi, I'm Matt." And he goes, "I'm Emily's friend." And I was, and he was your friend. And I just thought, I'm keeping Emily from having some fun friend time on the bus too. Yeah. And I don't know, that Matt hugging me and giving me a kiss that morning, I still wasn't holding on to him. He just clung to me like a monkey. Yeah. And but the love and compassion that he had towards me, and I thought, I'm keeping Emily from more of that by driving her back and forth. Right. And so I called the bus late, and she's just like, "We're coming," and it was only like, 2 mornings a week? Or 3 mornings. It wasn't every day.
Did they pick Emily up at your house? They would pick right
at the end of my driveway, and they would just I don't know. They made it just such a joyful, loving, trust-filled experience, and the bus ride was fun. And Emily would come up. They'd give Emily to me when they got home, and they had created an imagination story, which Emily loves. And there was characters on the bus we didn't even see. It was just an experience. So it wasn't just a bus ride.
So do you remember the bus rides?
Yes.
Tell me a good story.
Okay. So I really liked reading from a young age, and I remember I used to pretend that Pegasus was riding alongside the bus, and then the bus driver would try to outpace Pegasus, and I would have to tell him, "Oh, you beat Pegasus today," or "Oh, Pegasus beat you. I'll have to try again next time." Or I went through a phase where I really liked Jungle Book, so the bus driver and her assistant would take turns being Mowgli, and just to the point, voices and different things.
And to the point we'd have to put a place setting at the table because they were so real characters.
They're real.
Yeah, they had dinner with us sometimes.
Did you ride a bus all the way through senior high school?
Yes.
And did you have those imaginary?
Oh no, I think that stopped around the end of elementary school. But yeah.
Okay. So when I was reading your story again in the Dayton Daily News, I don't know where in the story it fits at this point, but there was a transformative moment in your life, one that you could release Emily to be safe, but also it was transformative that it also impacted your life, your marriage. What was that moment, or what were those situations that really brought you all together as a family?
I'm angry, right?
I know you're angry.
Yeah, I was angry.
I don't want to see that.
So we're leaving our couples Bible study group in Kettering. I can tell you exactly whose house we were at, and our one of our couple that was in that group. His name was Dwayne, and he said, "We're leaving to go home. We're walking out." And he goes, "Barb, have you contacted Johnny Erickson Tada's ministry yet?" And I said, "No, I've not contacted that Johnny chick, and I don't plan to." And he goes, "Okay, well, can I sign you up for her newsletter at least?" I'm like, "Fine, go ahead, Dwayne. I could care less." So he went home and signed us up for the newsletter. So Emily has always loved music. And I noted I got the newsletter, so I thought, oh, Dwayne signed me up, And so to appease everybody, because people kept saying, "Contact that Johnny chick," I'm like, okay. So on her newsletter, she was coming out with a children's music CD called Harps and Halo. So I thought, well, I'll order the Harps and Halo CD because Emily loves music and it really ministers to her heart. And so one night. I'm getting ahead of the story. So,
no, you're good.
So I ordered the CD. Okay. So, in the meantime, Emily's had her 5th birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. And, she has had a blast. All her little friends were there, and my husband and another friend, Dave, were taking Emily from the ball pit to the merry-go-round and, carrying her from activity to activity. We had a blast that evening.
But and while it's true that we as a family had a blast that evening, and I felt very loved and special and blessed and celebrated by our family and friends, I noticed that my friends could pick up their pizza and mow down on it whenever they wanted to, Mr. Weinstein, whereas I had to have my mom cut up my pizza for me, and my friends could run and jump in the ball pit, whereas my Uncle Dave had to carry me over to the ball pit, or my friends could run and jump on the carousel, whereas my daddy had to carry me over to the carousel and then hold me on the carousel horse so I wouldn't fall off. And I was like, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 here. So on the day after my 5th birthday, I'm watching Mom garden in our backyard, and we had a brick patio, and that's where I was seated in my wheelchair. And all of a sudden, this deep guttural sob just gushed forth out of me, and it was so abrupt and sudden that Mom came running over to make sure I was okay. And I said, Mommy, my legs are useless. They're nothing but cute little ornaments for you to put frilly socks on. They serve no purpose whatsoever. They're useless. And Mom tried to pick me up and hold me because I love hugs and still do love hugs to this day, and just tried to reassure me Emily, it's okay. We're going to get through this. Your daddy and I love you. Jesus loves you. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I had accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior when I was 4.5, but I just had this really sad, depressing movie playing in my head for those 3 days after my 5th birthday. I just remember thinking, I'll never dance on my own 2 feet at my wedding. I'll never climb a tree. I'll never drive a car. Oh no, this can't be all that there is. Please don't let there be all that there is. And I would just wake up and just cry all throughout the day and literally cry myself to sleep in exhaustion until the 3rd day of this crying cycle, when that CD by Johnny Erickson Tada arrived in the mail.
Right. So, and Tom would call, my husband would call and say, how's Emily, coming home? I'm like, oh, she's still crying. That was day 2, day 3, 5 o'clock. This is before cell phones, and he's and he's like, how's Emily? She's still inconsolable, crying. He goes, okay, I'll be home here soon. And our mail arrived late all the time. It's usually around 5:36 in the evening. So I go get the mail and start getting dinner ready. And in the mail is this Harps and Halo CD. So, that's the day of the boom boxes. So I put the CD in the boom box, and Emily's, still, just having that, type of sniffle and cry. Right. And so I thought, well, we'll just go through the motion of dinner. And so I put this music CD in. Again, I don't know who Johnny Erickson Tada is really yet. Okay. And so the first song we hear is called I'm Gonna Go to Heaven. And the chorus goes on saying, I'm not going to be buried 6 feet under, pushing up grass for the rest of my life. I'm going to be in heaven with my best friend, Jesus. But now you understand, the chorus is saying she's already depressed, and now this lady Johnny's talking about being buried 6 feet under, pushing up grass for the rest of her life,
and I'm daisies and talking how like this graveyard is just a place to hang this old suit to dry. I'll have a brand new body. I'll spread my wings and fly. Gonna go to heaven. Gonna go live with Jesus, the King of my heart. And so I'm hearing the part about Jesus and the King of my heart in heaven. And that's what the Lord used to give me eternal hope, Mr. One. It's like,
well, I tried to go over and turn the music off.
Mom's hearing like the graveyard and the dead and being 6 feet under, putting up daisies. And she goes to turn off. And I say, no, Mommy, no, don't turn off. Listen. I said, I won't be stuck in this body forever. Someday I'll be in heaven having a party with my best friend Jesus. And then I went on to say, I have a message in my brokenness. I can tell other people about Jesus.
Oh.
And so now you understand, I'm angry, right? And I'm thinking Emily will accept, in my vision, I thought Emily will accept her disability when she gets to middle school. Okay. And here, 3 days after her 5th birthday party, Emily's accepting that she has cerebral palsy and that she has a kingdom. I used to think of heaven, and I knew I needed to read my Bible and pray. It was like a to-do, but not a relational
lifeline to help you navigate through the day.
Yes. And so now Emily's dancing and singing and joyful and hopeful. And my husband walks in the door, and Emily's spinning around her wheelchair in the kitchen.
Confused.
And then I'm in the front, and I'm in our front room on my carpeting, flat on my face, surrendering my life to the Lord, saying, I'm so sorry, Lord. I can't do this without you. Please help me. I just want to know you. I want you to be my all in all. I'm failing miserably. And he scooped me up, and I went back to the people that I was horrible to and apologized, and we're still friends to this day. And but it was probably the sweetest time in my life, and we're always surrendering every day.
Thank you for listening to the Cedarville Stories Podcast, brought to you by Cedarville University. Be sure to come back next week when we'll share another Cedarville story for God's glory.